lesson. This is a video made by third-year students from the ISL. Today we're going to discuss about the direct method. And to do so, I'm going to share with you our table of contents. First of all, we're going to introduce a brief historical background about the direct method. Then, we'll take a look at the definition and the principles that govern this method. Third, we'll talk about some strategies to apply the direct method in class. And finally, we'll review some advantages and disadvantages. It is very important to take into consideration the historical background behind this method. The direct method is also known as a natural method, and it was born in France and Germany at around the 1900s as a way to respond to the people's inability of communicating orally due to the grammar translation method. The direct method attempts to submerge students into the language in a world where no translation is allowed, and it focuses primarily on oral skills. Moving on, we'll take a look at the definition. According to Larson, Freeman, and Anderson, the direct method received its name from the fact that meaning is to be conveyed directly in the target language through the use of demonstration and visual aids with no recourse to the student's native language. Now let's take a look at the main principles of this method, in which the classroom activities should be based on. The first principle is that learners should read in the target language. This principle promotes the practice of speaking and develops reading skills in the student. The second one is about the use of objects, pictures, realia, and actions in the classroom to help learners understand the meaning of concepts and words. Nowadays, teachers should adapt themselves to the digital world, and they are also encouraged to apply technology in classroom. The third principle, and the most important one, is that only the target language should be used in the classroom and avoid the native languages of the students. Teachers should demonstrate instead of translate. The next principle is that students should learn to think in the target language as soon as possible, because the main purpose of language learning is communication. The importance of knowing pronunciation right from the beginning is also a key principle to the direct method. Thus, students can work on their pronunciations and improve their fluency on the target language. Another principle talks about that lessons should contain some conversation activity for the students to have the opportunity to use language in real context and everyday life situations. The seventh principle is that grammar should be taught inductively and that there may never be an explicit grammar rule given. For example, students fill in blanks with prepositions practiced in the lesson. Writing is also a very important skill. This method develops from the beginning of the language instruction writing skills. Here, the teachers could dictate a paragraph about a specific topic to practice. The last principle of the direct method is that syllables should be based on situations or topics instead of linguistic structures. This way, learners are involved with the culture of the target language. Moving on, we're going to discuss some strategies for the class. Some activities we can use are reading out loud, having a questions and answers session, getting students to self-correct or correct themselves in a respectful way, having conversation practice, fill-in-the-blank exercises, dictation exercises, some map drawing, and also paragraph writing. Finally, we're going to take a look at some advantages and disadvantages of the direct method. To first discuss the advantages, we can mention that only the target language is used. It mainly focuses on speech, and it uses realia to teach vocabulary. The relationship between thoughts and expression is also an advantage. On the contrary, we can also find some disadvantages. Some of them are overemphasis on oral practice. This causes reading and writing to be ignored. Another disadvantage is that average and below average students might have a hard time learning. And lastly, the direct method can be expensive for some teachers because they have to purchase visual aids. We're going to show you some testimonials that real teachers have shared with us on the direct method. For example, this teacher said, Teaching a second language is not a sprint. When teaching a language, it is a must to use audio and visual materials and different strategies. Direct method allows the students to increase their understanding and decode the context. It can be applied in all subjects. The students will be at ease, feel confident, and engage with the activities. In order to relate to the context, they need visual and audio materials to at least have an idea of what is being discussed. Another teacher said, "I've always worked in bilingual schools, and the direct method always worked best. Wouldn't change it." Here we have the sources that we were reading for this video. Please refer to these materials for more information about the direct method. Thank you so much for watching. Our production team is David Barreto, Soledad Gomez, and Constanza Allen. Voice over done by Constanza Allen, and special thanks to our dear professor, Elena Núñez.